Well, one bloke who always stands up for national sovereignty, particularly in the northern part of Australia, is the great Bob Katter Jr., the member for Kennedy, joins me live in the studio. Bob, always good to see you. I mean, it's fair enough, isn't it? We've got to do something about getting our national sovereignty back in check, getting Australia up for Australia.
My staff made me look at that Drew Pavlo thing.
Yeah.
And I watched it 4 times and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. That university is controlled by China. I mean, 4 thugs bash up an Australian, right? No action is taken against the 4 thugs. No action is taken by the police against the 4 thugs. And the action is taken against this young kid who had the temerity to speak his mind about China.
Yeah.
Well, you're not allowed to do that. The thought control is in the universities. But righto, the entire information storage and retrieval systems for the Australian Defence Forces is in the hands of China. I mean, Andrew Wilkie is an independent, and I think in the old category you'd say he was left, you know, but I don't think that works these days. But he's left. But he said, you couldn't dream this up.
You couldn't make it up.
David Baldacci, you couldn't put it in a novel, no one would believe it. But I just quickly gave a scenario and a question time. If they embargo our oil. Now, we have had our oil embargoed, I think, 5 times by the Middle East. Japan was forced into the war because America embargoed their oil. The battle in Europe was between Russia and China, and it was, Russia and Germany. Germany trying to get to the oil fields. Stalingrad was the, gateway to the oil fields. Now, we get all of our petrol and diesel from overseas, and it comes from Singapore and South Korea. If China says, embargo, they're not going to defy China. Singapore and South Korea are not going to defy China. So now you've got nothing, right? They own the port of Darwin. Ships there from China all the time.
Half of the port of Newcastle.
Ships are there all the time. One of those ships contains a cargo of a battalion of Red Guard commandos.
Who knows? Who knows?
But you say the scenario is far-fetched. Well, they said the Japanese never come here, they can't see properly, they've got glasses and they're a backward third world country. 13 naval battles and the Japanese won every single one of them.
Yeah.
The Americans, not one.
Yeah. And they're our friends again. I mean, they fought with us in World War
One. You know what
and
I'm saying?
I understand.
You can't see it coming.
No.
You can't see it coming.
We've been asleep on this stuff, really, haven't we, for a long time? We've been lazy.
I mean, if you're talking about, I'm definitely, there's no way I'm going to call women wee-wees. But if you take out the men, of course, you have to say wee-wees, see?
Right.
So I'm not going to call them wee-wees. Truly, I'm not. No matter what they do to me, I'm not.
Okay.
The bloke patting me down at the airport, it came in because the Middle Eastern people were blowing up America and everywhere, So we brought in all this rigorous, business at the airport. Now, I see women being patted down Australian airports by Middle Eastern people.
Yeah.
And I got my great-grandfather came from the Middle East. I'm not knocking him.
I know.
But there's just an irony here that is beyond belief. But clearly, the people in Canberra are taken up with petty irrelevancies and they're missing the big picture completely. Completely.
Water. I talk a lot about water. I know you have for years. And I've got to say to you that I was pretty inspired by some of the stuff you said back in the 2010 federal election. And I said to my friend Tony Abbott, you've got to steal Bob Katter's policy. You've got to do something about the North. And he did with the Northern Australia infrastructure.
And Tony put 5,000 million into the NAIF fund.
5 billion.
And 550 million into the water fund.
It was a direct steal of your idea, because I gave it to them as an idea.
Nothing's there.
I know.
I mean, 7 years or 10 years later, and there's nothing there. And I said to Scott Morrison, where's the 540 million in water? It's gone. I said, where'd it go? And he said, I'm not going to tell you. I said, I wouldn't tell me either if I was you. I mean, it's just been spent on inquiries. I mean, 540 million inquiries. Please give it to me and I will build you that little dying town of Hewenden with 800 people in it, right? It will become, and we have got the money off Scott Morrison, and we will build that dam, and it will become a city of 12,000, maybe 20,000.
That'll make a difference, won't it?
Well, let me just quote. Emerald was about 1,000 people, right? It is now nearly 20,000 people. Griffith was 700 people. Griffith in New South Wales.
Yep.
It is now 24,000
Water.
people, right? Mareeba was 1,200 people, right? It is now 24,000 people. Water. Each one of them got a dam, and when it got a dam, went straight through the roof,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now, there's a catch that. If you want to use it to make your Cotton Kings, the Cotton Kings super rich, they're super rich now, super rich, then you'll end up like we were. And actually, when they introduced the cotton and the water in we were, population went down.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a ballot system as well. You know, that you put 100 owner-operator farmers there, not one Cotton King. You know, you put 100 farmers there. So, but that was the ballot system in each of those three examples.
But the point is, you can't build regional Australia without water.
But you can't build Australia. I mean, we've got North Queensland would be the most, if we were a separate country, we would be the most resource-rich country on earth. We've got the lot. We've got coal, which we need for our energy. Gary, I was the Minister for Mines and Energy. It was $670 for 11 straight years.
Yeah.
$670 cost of your electricity at home, right?
Yeah.
Right? They introduced free markets, competition and all the other bloody rubbish and your greeny, silly glass business on the roof, right? When they introduced that, it went from $670, where it had been for 11 years,
Yep.
to $2,400, right?
Yeah.
Now, you can't process minerals, right? If you can't process minerals, we're not a mining country, we're a quarrying country.
Yeah.
We're the lowest possible, operation, quarrying. That's what we're down to. And that's all our income comes from iron ore and coal.
So
quarrying.
that marvellous idea of the iron boomerang railway line
Yes.
that hooks up a smelter in Bowen and a smelter over in the northwest of Western Australia, brings coal and iron ore into the various parts. That's a marvellous nation-building project. The idea of a railway line across the north makes a big difference.
When the three of us, the gang of three, when we put the Bradfield scheme, resurrected it,
Yep.
put it before Bajorki Peterson, and then he put it before the federal government. Both governments agreed and launched on it immediately, right? And Leo Hilch was a key player,
Yep.
and he still is. And
Yeah.
he still is
Yeah,
at
Sir Frank
93.
Moore, yeah, and Sir Frank Moore.
Sir Frank Moore,
Yeah.
right? They're still key players in this. But if you do that, you create, and it's not primary industry, it's secondary industry. Stage one is Hell's Gate. It produces 7% of Australia's petrol. We import all our petrol from overseas.
Yeah.
Here's 7% in one tiny project. Bradfield Stage 1, Hell's Gate Dam.
Yeah.
And you've got 7% of Australia's petrol. You can fatten 1/8 of Australia's cattle turn off,
Yeah.
You can grow timber, and you can produce electricity with zero emissions.
Yeah.
1,000 megawatts. Like we've got, you referred to the 6 power stations. They're about 1,600 megawatts, right?
Right.
This one is 700 megawatts, right?
Yeah.
But it's a very big power station. You get all that for one dam. A lousy little dam. And the area it's going into is the desert uplands.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to cry and weep over the desert uplands?
It just makes no sense to me. As I said, Australia is a just add water country, and
That's right.
you get water into the western parts of Australia. Big dividends come out of it automatically.
And your iron boomerang idea. I mean, blokes like Sir Leo Hilcher, the foundation stone of the economic miracle, which was Queensland. We got, and your point on electricity. So we're one of the biggest aluminium producers in the world,
we are.
Queensland,
Yep.
right? That is based upon us having the cheapest electricity in the world. It was $20 a megawatt, right? Now they're converting over to solar panels, which is $80 a megawatt. Now, I won the science prize because I put the first solar panel standalone system in, one of the first in the world, actually, but most certainly the first in Australia. We won the big science prize for that year. So I know it intimately, right? And in remote areas, or if you want to build a subdivision right up in the middle of the mountain system, it's terrific.
Yeah, yeah.
It's terrific.
But you need heavy
You put it,
baseload.
you do it in a city or for industry, it is madness.
No, it is. It's madness.
It is madness.
Bob Catter, always good to see you. I must say that back in the day when Bob Catter was the Energy Minister in Queensland, they were actually subsidising people to put air conditioners in their house. There was so much electricity generated and so cheap in Queensland. Bob, always good to see you.
Cheapest electricity in the world.
It was, it was. And you wonder why Australia can't make stuff now for a reasonable price and why China looks so attractive to Australian businesses looking for cheap solutions to the products they make here. Extraordinary stuff.